All right, welcome to episode 9 of Fantasy and Football Podcast. I'm your host, Chris. Colby did not undergo major plastic surgery and turn into someone else. Colby is indisposed. This week, we got a special guest host, a dear friend of mine, Brett Elder. Everyone clap, yay. So Brett will be filling in for Colby this week. This episode is going to be a little bit different. We're still going to have some of the segments we've been doing, but we're going to be a little more casual today. Ask Brett some questions and get his take on some things. So we're going to start, as we always do, Week 7 of the NFL is in the books. So as you can see by Brett's sweater there, he is also a Browns fan. So we'll skip Chiefs talk this week, which will be just fine.
Breath of fresh air.
Breath of fresh air. They're rolling. Nothing new there. But the Browns got a win versus the Dolphins. The defense looked great. Tua looked like garbage. What was your initial reaction to the game? Were you able to watch any of it?
Yeah, I watched most of it. It was one of those things. It's funny because my brother-in-law is a Dolphins fan. Don't know how. He's from Georgia, but ended up a Dolphin, and he lives in Colorado. So a couple different things going, but he's a big Dolphins fan. So pre-game, he sent my sister, who he was with, obviously, my dad and myself, a picture of him in his Dolphins jersey ready to go. I didn't really have many expectations going into the game. You don't know what you're going to get with this Browns team on a regular basis. Very mixed bag. I guess, if I had to sum it up as one thing, it was the Quinshon Judkins breakout show.
It was the Quinshon Judkins breakout show. Yeah, he has definitely been a bright spot. It looks like the right pick. I remember on draft day, as soon as they made that Judkins pick, you texted us and said, wish we got Henderson instead. So how are you feeling about that take?
Yeah, definitely foot and mouth at the moment. Just I'm still high on Henderson. I'm not really sure what the Patriots' plan for him is because they're still doing a committee with 3 different running backs. And I mean, Ramondre Stevenson, good for him. He can get in the end zone from 2 yards. A lot of running backs can. But why? I don't know. I mean, I don't know why they have so much stock in him with the fumble issues that he has. I mean, Trayvon's shown that when he does touch the football, he has that flair. But I'm happy, obviously, to see still a Buckeye succeeding for the Browns. That's always a good connection to have. There was always that little preseason concern after he had the little run-in with the law, but looks like to be water under the bridge at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of the draft picks they had, I mean, Fannin looks good. Judkins looks good. The defense is definitely top in the league and looking good, and they were kind of the reason they won that. So that brings us to one of the other draft picks, probably the biggest head scratcher that they made was with Dylan Gabriel. So he started the last 2 games. He's not looked great. And even in this win, like you look at the score and you think, oh, he probably had a decent day, maybe more than 250 passing yards, maybe a touchdown or something, but only 116 yards. So he still didn't look very good. Obviously, they shipped Flacco out, and Sanders is now the backup. So I wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on the current quarterback situation with Gabriel and Sanders.
It's a tricky one to wrap your head around, honestly. Everyone knows how polarizing the position of quarterback is in Cleveland. I'm not even sure what number we're on since the year 2000. I feel like 25 years, we've probably had over 25 QBs at this point, and it's still just a carousel of comedy, frankly. I really, outside of watching Gabriel play against Ohio State a couple times last year, didn't know too much about him to begin with. Everyone was high on him. He, fought his way in camp to the backup role. Flacco's out, so it's his time to step in. And it's just not that strong of an offense to begin with. He's under pressure a lot of times. But with that being said, I'm sure he's faced defenses in college where he was under pressure. and he seemed a little bit more poised in those moments than he is now. Now, is that a question of the lights being too bright, or is it a question just of comfortability in the offense or lack thereof? So I'm not going to be too quick to kind of, I'm not sure the term I'm looking for here, drag him down or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And then, the situation with Sanders, like the Browns have been pretty clear that he's just not going to be the starter. Now, I don't know. Browns have said that on a number of other occasions with other QBs in the past, and that's obviously changed. So really, from an organizational standpoint, you just got to stick with what you have for the time being, and then not be surprised when a curveball's thrown, because there's been plenty of those. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm not going to judge Gabriel too harshly. The Browns offense just isn't that great to begin with. So, while all of that blame usually does fall on the QB or just coaching, like we just got to take each game as they come right now. And, right now all eyes are on New England this weekend.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting seeing on the other side, Joe Flacco have the kind of week that he had, right? Throwing it. Now, obviously, having Jamar Chase and T. Higgins is just like an embarrassment of riches. And that's why Cincinnati set it up that way for Burrow. But seeing that in just 2 games, what kind of statement maybe does that say about Gabriel? Like, is it just him, or to your point, is it some of the coaching? Is it the offense? Like, obviously they have some decent pieces. I mean, Jerry Jeudy is a good player. Fannon's a rookie, but he's a good player. And Njoku is a good player. So Judkins is turning into a good player. And so they have a lot of good players, but is it lack of talent from Gabriel? Is it they're just not coaching the offense that well? Is it that maybe those guys just really aren't that good? A lot of young guys on the team. So I thought that was interesting, seeing Flacco have that much success. And I think a lot of the media, at least, seemed to turn that on Stefanski, who, what we've talked about on the podcast for the past couple weeks, is obviously on a hot seat. Like, a lot of local Cleveland media is already done. Like, they're like, fire him, fire Barry, cut all the players, change the owner, just like burn it all down. And when they build the new stadium in Bridge Park, we'll start anew. So how do you feel about the job Stefanski and Barry have done? You feel like their jobs are safe now that they got this win, even though the offense still didn't look very good? To your point about QB carousel, we've also been in kind of a coaching carousel as well. So what are your thoughts on Stefanski and Barry as the current regime right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say like I'm super in the know on everything, on all the ins and outs in the Cleveland media for the football side of things. At the end of the day, just based off my experience in other sports and other teams I support going through similar situations, I don't think it's always the answer just to consistently try to identify a coach, right? Like, Andrew Barry's job is, the organizational, and then just talent and draft picks and getting the pieces in the right spot. And, obviously with any organization, that's going to backfire at times. Now, Browns obviously aren't a team to skimp on money. That's not really an issue, as we know it is with our other favorite Cleveland team. But ultimately, it's the coach's job to put out what he feels is the best team each week. And results obviously are king. We're 2-5 right now. Mm-hmm. We're a couple plays outside of being 4-3. Like, we could have won week 1 against the Bengals. We should have won week 1 against the Bengals. I'm trying to remember what week 2. Well, I know we got embarrassed a couple times to the Ravens and the Lions. Those are outliers because, with as good as our defense is, we gave up a lot of points in both those games. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised again if the Haslams or whoever makes that decision ultimately decides to go in a different direction. I like Stefanski. He's won a Coach of the Year with us. Mm-hmm. When we had the correct pieces, things were clicking. He took us to the first playoff game we'd been to in a long time, and a first playoff victory we've had in a long time. Mm-hmm. But when you look at just ultimately some of the decisions. I would feel that Andrew Barry maybe should be, if we're going to point fingers, should be taking a little bit more fire than Stefanski necessarily, because at the end of the day, he's still responsible for borderline the worst trade in NFL history.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson is still on our books. He's still technically on our team. If he comes back healthy, is he going to be in that QB room? Like, that's just a terrible thought to think right now.
Yeah. We've all three people that tune in to watch this have gotten my rant on going from 0-32 to where we are now through that saga with Baker and Deshaun. So, yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how the season plays out. I mean, I think with one unique thing, I think with Haslam is that with all the Bridge Park mess going on for the new stadium, that there's a chance. I mean, I think clearly that is at the top of his priority right now versus how many games the Browns are winning. So there's a chance Stefanski and Barry could, if he was ever thinking about or wanting to evaluate moving on from one or either of them, that he just might not be paying attention or care that much right now about what's going on. So for right now, they have their jobs. The Browns got to win. Winning fixes everything, doesn't it?
It does.
That's where the Browns are. Okay. So we're not going to do our segment Gym of the Year. We're going to move on to our segment Win, Lose, or Bush League. So this is a segment where we state whether our fantasy team won, they lost, or they lost but they should have won. In other words, it was Bush League. So I'll start, and then Brett, you'll go through your team. So in the Guillotine League that I'm in, I survived. Not really always just a win if you survive. So that's good. I started at the bottom this week, and then Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts pulled me up from the depths to make sure.
Unlikely heroes.
I know, really unlikely. I could not believe it. In my family league, I lost. I don't know what to do anymore in that league.
Was it Bush League?
No, it wasn't. I have a lot of the guys that I was targeting in drafts this year are all the ones that are either just way underperforming or just hurt. Like, I have a lot of Terry McLaurin, a lot of Brian Thomas Jr., a lot of Bucky Irving, like just brutal guys that are out. And then in the friend league, so again, those three people that watch this know that I'm in a friend league. So our co-host today is one of those friends in that league. So I won. Yeah.
That you did.
Not been doing well, but I won. Honestly, so we played each other last week, and we both probably performed better than what we were expecting. But as they know, that I lost that. So moving on to now, my work league. I lost, but that was some Bush League. So this has been a running thing on the last few weeks, is that specifically in this league, I have finished now. This will make 3 weeks in a row where I finish as highest points in a loss. And each team, so all three teams I've lost to 3 weeks in a row, haven't scored more. Now, this is, to explain to you, Brett, this league is like an 8-man PPR with an extra flex. Like, it just every team is really scoring a lot of points. But even in that kind of league, these three teams I played 3 weeks in a row haven't scored 140 or more points at all this season until they played me. And then one of them scored 165, and then one of them scored 185. And then it's like going this way. This week, I scored 174 points, which would have beaten every other team this week in our league by at least 10 to 15 and growing from there. The team I played this week scored 233 points. I'm just like, what am I supposed to do?
You just take it, you know.
Yeah, and
those are the toughest loss pills to swallow, is when you're consistently putting up good points, and those, it's happened to everyone at least once. They've had that stretch where the teams that they should be beating are just somehow pulling it out and scoring these ridiculous points, and then next week that same person will score 120 points.
Yep. Yeah. So Bush League, I call Bush League in that one. All right. So why don't we do this before you go through, and I should have done this before we started the segment, but why don't we go through your leagues real quick, and I'll ask you. So what I want you to do, talk about the number of leagues you're in, and then the number of teams, the format, right? So like PPR, standard scoring, whatever. And then if you want to talk briefly about like any stakes or punishments for those leagues.
Yeah, so this year I am in 3 leagues, which is one less than last year. So the 4th league I was in last year was my work league, and that was my first year at that company. And I just didn't want to be in 4 leagues. I was on 3 different apps. It was just a lot to juggle. And I won my work league last year, and I told them, I'm like, I'm out. I'm dipping as champion, one and done. Yeah. I got a lot of grief for that, obviously. But it was on Yahoo. I don't like Yahoo. It was a 10-man, low buy-in. It just, wasn't really doing anything for me other than being a distraction. And for me, I personally find when I'm in too many leagues, there's just too many conflicts. You're rooting against guys that are on your team in other leagues. And so, 3, I'd even be comfortable with 2, but like I'm in 3 right now. Out of those 4 leagues I was in last year, I won 3 of them. So, I'm a little bit on a hot heater right now.
Yeah.
But so dropped 1 league. The other 3 leagues I'm in, one of them I commission. It's a 10-man, full PPR, standard ESPN league. Another one I'm in is a 12-man standard, full PPR league on ESPN. And then the third one I'm in is that friend league that you and I are both in, half-point PPR, keeper league. But yeah, so results from this week. So the league that I commission, I won. Doing pretty well in that league. 5-2 at the moment. I don't know how, but they let me get Jamar Chase and Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Oh my!
Wide receiver 1 and 2. They literally put up 20. They literally put up like 20 to 30 points per week, guaranteed. Yeah. So,
all right.
And actually, from a running back standpoint, worked out for me. So I had James Cook, and so he got off to a really hot start. He's kind of cooled off. So is Buffalo in general, but and then I had James Conner, which I wasn't thrilled about that pick originally, but like having Jackson Smith-Njigba and Jamar Chase. And I have Brock Bowers. Like if he does come back healthy and breaks out again, I have 3 really good pass catchers. And I also have Keenan Allen, who's been a revelation this year, going back to that offense he's very comfortable with in Los Angeles. But James Conner getting hurt actually worked out well because the emergence of Scadabo, who I took a flyer on, he just went right into James Conner's spot. And he's been getting me 20 plus points a week. So, I'm in that league with a lot of people, all 3 Motter brothers, Bardo, so a lot of other mutual friends to the people who don't know who I'm talking about. But so I'm doing just fine in that league. The 12-man full point PPR, I also won. Not crazy about that team. I'm 4-3 in that league. I never do well in that league. I'm 4-3 at the moment. I'm just, my team's still not that great. I just keep finding ways to win. And then in our friend league, I lost. And for the viewers who are familiar with said friend league, I won it last year, and I basically sold my soul to win it. I didn't have a first-round pick this year. I had no keepers, basically, other than Brian Thomas Jr., who he's been all right this year. He had a great year last year. But so I am 2-5 in that league, and you could say that I am tanking.
Playing for next year.
But as far as I know, I don't think there's punishments in any of those 3 leagues. We talked about doing one in the one I commissioned this year, but like the people in that group chat are so hit or miss in terms of responding. Like we're all old, married, and some are having kids and stuff, so just kind of takes the backseat to most of the time. But I think the one that we're in is $150 buy-in, so that's high stakes, and I'm 2-5, so I know I'm losing money this year. One of them's $100 buy-in, and then one of them's like a $75, but there's a weekly $5 low score contribute. This is a new thing we're doing this year. I actually think is kind of cool. So the lowest scorer of each week has to pay $5 into a separate pot, and at the end of the year, whoever scores the most points gets to buy a jersey of their choice with that pool of money. So I thought that someone else suggested that, but I liked that idea, so we ran with it, and I'm not gonna buy myself a jersey because right now I'm kind of running away with things.
Yeah.
I will buy the second point scorer because I won my commissioned league last year. We do a random draw every year for first pick. I got first pick this year after I won it. I'm the commissioner. So it's just like there's too many things going in my favor. I feel bad. I'm like, I'm not rigging it. Someone else, if I score the most points, someone else can get the jersey. I'm not, taking that for myself.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but that's kind of the 3 leagues I'm in a nutshell.
Okay. All right. Well, that was Win, Lose, or Bush League. It's funny. So that's a great idea. I want to tell you a story about, so as the viewers know that I'm a physical therapist, so I meet new people every day, and I have a patient who is in a fantasy football league that did a new punishment this year. And when he told me this, it was ridiculous. I had to step away. And then I made a mental note to actually text you guys about it, but I forgot. So I'm going to tell you now. And their punishment, their legit punishment that they're going to do is the loser or last place has to go and donate to a sperm bank. And allegedly there is, when you fill out the paperwork, you can, I think it's more of just an acknowledgement that if there is a biological child of yours, that you can acknowledge that they have a right to contact you or something like that. And so they have to fill out that acknowledgement, that part of the form after they donate to the sperm bank. I'm just you guys are playing for too much.
Oh
There's too much there at stake for me. So
I mean, that's creative. That's hilarious, honestly.
That is very creative. I'm I would just let me puke doing a beer mile or something like that. I don't want to go through all that. All right. Let's go to, we're doing good on time. We're going to go to injury talk. So normally during injury talk, because Colby is a physical therapist as well, we get into a little bit of nitty gritty with the boring stuff, talking about a little bit of the science with the rehab and things like that. But we're not going to do that this week. What we're going to do instead, I'm going to ask you just some questions about sort of this weird nexus of sort of injuries, or at least the attention that we are paying to injuries now, particularly in the NFL and the NBA, kind of the two main biggest sports in the US. But this idea that it's all of a sudden it's people feel or if you listen or read into anything, you would come away thinking oh, injuries must be at an all-time high. It's getting worse. But then the data that they have where they're tracking injuries is showing that both NBA and especially football has never been safer. So it's a weird kind of dichotomous situation. And, from my perspective as a physical therapist, it's interesting because a lot that's out there is old heads sitting around and they're just point A to point B the way we used to play, and then that's they don't do that anymore, and that's why they're getting injured. And it's kind of really I remember reading something with a lot of the Achilles tendon tears that are happening after it happened to Tyrese Halliburton in the playoffs last year. I saw a comment and it was a blue check mark, and I recognized the name. It was some retired basketball player, NBA player. And they were oh, it's because they're not wearing high top sneakers anymore. And I'm just no data, zero examples and evidence. It's just that these guys wear low top sneakers and therefore there's more Achilles tendon ruptures. It's that's probably probably not it. Like their shoes, even the low top ones, are way better at helping to control themselves than like some old high top like all star shoes or something like that. So just seeing a lot of that out there. So what I want to do is ask you about NFL specifically. One of the big things is the grass versus the turf debate. Now you were, for those out there that don't know, obviously Brett was a college soccer player, very good one, played his whole life, and he wasn't a goalie. So he was doing a lot of running and sprinting and that kind of thing. And so what is your take, I guess, and you can use maybe some of your experience as a college athlete on grass versus turf?
Yeah, so I mean, just for starters, like not even from an injury standpoint type of debate, but just general consensus on things. Turf's just consistent, right? Like there's not a whole lot of maintenance that needs to be done other than raking the rubber pellets, spreading them out across the field more evenly. Grass, a lot of maintenance goes into it. After every game, they're having to resod or patch up whatever they can. But ultimately, I always personally preferred grass. It's a natural, you kind of get what you kind of know what you're getting out of it. You can adjust your cleats accordingly. You could wear different types of spikes or studs, whatever you want to call them. If it's hard ground, if it's soft, if it's muddy slop fest, whatever, like there's different shoes that you can wear. But turf, you can't really, you have to get specific shoes typically that you're wearing on those. But I believe that it's probably, if you consistently play on turf, it's harder on the joints. I don't have any evidence to back that up. That's just a personal opinion of mine.
Yeah.
But, I've heard of other athletes, having that soccer background. There's a famous European soccer player. His name was Thierry Henry. He was a French forward who played in the English Premier League and then he was one of the first few to come over to play in the MLS. A very big deal at the time. And he had a clause in his contract that said anytime, and he played for the New York Red Bulls, and the clause said anytime they played on a turf field, he could decide if he did not want to play or not. So, having that high profile of a player who I'm sure was very competitive, wanted to win, wanted to score, wanted to contribute to the team, there was something to be said about him not wanting to play on turf. Now take that with a grain of salt, whatever. My opinion on injuries could have to do with what else they're doing outside of just playing, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously you're practicing, you're weightlifting, how much you're taking care of your body. Now at a high level like the NFL and then the NBA, you're getting world-class treatment, world-class facilities. But take someone like myself. I had 2 hernia surgeries in college and I was a college soccer player, but it was of my opinion because I was not the only one on that team who had hernia surgeries. We actually had quite a few, and that raised a few eyebrows. It's just like, okay, well, what else are you guys doing? Not 6 people on another college soccer team are not getting hernias. So, with what our weightlifting program was, very comparative to what the basketball and the baseball players at my school were doing. And, we were doing max squats the day before a game. It's just like, that's probably not, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a weightlifting coach or certified or anything like that, but I knew how my legs felt. And if you're, squatting 250, 300 pounds, which I'm 5'8", 150 pounds soaking wet, like that's, a lot for me. And I'm sore the next day. It's probably not conducive to be sprinting for 90 minutes in a soccer game. That's just me. So, I mentioned that to go back to my original point of we don't know everything else that these football and basketball players are doing. Now, I know basketball, especially, the big term these days is load management. Now, everyone outside of the association rolls their eyes at that because it's like, look, you guys per sport are paid the most amount of money in any professional sports. There's only so many people in that league. There's 12 to 15 people on a roster. They get paid ridiculous amounts of money. So for someone to sit there and say, hey, my ankle's a little sore, I don't feel like suiting up tonight, seems a little bogus, right? But
Right.
ultimately, it is important, and I don't really know what to make of it per se. That's something you
Yeah.
and Colby could touch on more, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. You make a really, really poignant point, I think, because I think you're exactly right. It is, I think, kind of the point I was making before is that it's easier to try to draw a connection to when that injury happens, what was the immediate context and circumstance of that play? That player was wearing a certain pair of shoes, performing a certain move on a certain surface during a certain time in the game. And I think that's where people's minds go to automatically, and they think, okay, there was something about that situation right then that caused this injury to happen. And I see that a lot in my own practice talking to patients, not necessarily people that I don't see any professional athletes. So not those situations, but similar situations where I have someone that maybe is 70 years old, and 2 weeks before I see them, they started having a bunch of knee pain, and they have no idea why. All they did was step out of their car the same way they've stepped out of their car for their whole life. They didn't do anything, nothing changed. They've been doing the same thing. They don't know why it hurts. They go to the doctor takes an x ray, and it shows some osteoarthritis in their knee, and they don't see anything else. And they come to me and they say, that doesn't make any sense, because if I had, I didn't just develop the arthritis while I was in the car, and then I got out of the car and then it hurt all of a sudden. And I say, you're exactly right. That didn't happen. But I see this idea that it's like, what were the immediate circumstances of my injury? And I think most people look for the answer somewhere in that, when really what it is, and what I tell them is, you've probably been developing arthritis. If you're 70 years old, you've probably been developing arthritis for 30 years. The idea, though, was that it was asymptomatic. You weren't having symptoms. You were able to do whatever, and it was there. And then little by little by little, 30 years of that developing, it got to a point where that thing that you always do, well, now that's enough to make whatever stage that arthritis is symptomatic. Now you're having pain. So it's not something you did wrong. It just was an inevitability of this thing happening, but it started a long time ago. So all that to say is exactly to your point. What else are they doing? Because guys get hurt on grass too. But if a guy gets hurt on grass, there's like no headlines about it. They're not talking about the great turf debate and all this. And I think the example with your personal injuries, and the idea that, okay, is it something, you had these hernias? Was it something about the shoes you chose? Like, did you choose the wrong shoes, to use your example, or something like that? Was it the grass? Was it the turf? Was it something like that? But then you can go and look and say, okay, well, clearly there's a pattern here. And then what now do we have in common that maybe isn't something that's happening on the field, but something else we're doing, like the strength and conditioning coach or something like that, not doing what's appropriate for your sport. And things like that. So that's a really good, a really, really good point you made. And I think that kind of drives home what I think about it, is that guys are bigger, faster, stronger than they've ever been. And with advancements in technology and like gear, like technology for the gear, technology for, back in the 80s when Michael Jordan was playing, they were smoking and drinking beer after the game. Like, guys aren't doing that, right? They're taking care of themselves a little bit better. All these things. So I think that's a component of it. And I think with turf, I mean, the real difference to me between turf and grass when it comes to injuries is that grass has more give to it than turf does, right? So if like a blade of grass, some force applied to that is less to kind of move it than it is just artificial turf. And so I think a lot of guys are experiencing, of course, with basketball, you've got a hard court with shoes designed to move the smallest amount when they stop and they start and they go and those sorts of things. But again, given kind of the context of an injury, is it just that again in that moment it's because this big, fast, strong guy with this great shoes that don't let him move, is that what cause injury? Maybe, and probably some of that. But then looking at okay, well, what else are they doing? So to your point, like load management in the NFL, they've been slowly negotiating like reduced practice time, like required time. Um, and I think with the NBA, of course, they have like load management, so they've kind of been doing that. But there is some talk about or debate about are increases in soft tissue injuries now because these guys are practicing less, right? Where the players, the whole reason they wanted to reduce the practice time is because they felt like they were getting hurt because they were practicing too much, right? So it's a very interesting thing. And then I think about like probably the most gruesome injury this year, Tyreek happened on a grass field.
Yeah.
Right. So, and no one was like, we need to switch all the fields to turf next week, like they do when a guy gets injured on turf. So, yeah, I think it's something that I know the leagues are looking into, obviously, because they want their players playing and they want people that pay all that money to go see them to be able to see the people, the top players and things like that. So that'll be it for injury talk. That was good. That was very good. All right. Last football thing we'll do is our fantasy and football coronation quest. So Brett has no idea what this is. So the fantasy and football coronation quest is, let me pull this up. Whoa. It is something that we started as a way to try to kind of link fantasy football and the fantasy genre together a little bit. And we always do it at the end of our football section before we move on to fantasy. So what we did is we made a handful of categories that all are given like sci-fi fantasy names from books or movies or whatever. And then there's a description for it. So for example, I'll just read the first one is The King in the North. So that's the most fantasy points scored on like a week-to-week basis. And so we'll go through each of those and then we'll list the players then for that week that were the top in that category. And then we just will add them up at the end of the season. And then those players will officially have those titles. Not that they mean anything because we're just dumb guys doing something fun. But that's it.
Right.
All right. So for week 7, the King of the North, most fantasy points scored week to week goes to Bo Nix, who was on a lot of people's benches, I think, rightfully so, until they absolutely had an amazing fourth quarter.
That was unbelievable to watch.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. The next one is the Goblin King. So this is the most touchdowns during the week by a non-QB. So no QBs are eligible for this. This week, we had a tie for the first time since week 4 between Jonathan Taylor and Devontae Adams. Each had 3 touchdowns.
Wouldn't Quinshon Judkins be in that too? Didn't he have 3?
Did he have 3 or 2? Ooh,
I'm pretty sure he had 3.
We might have to edit this. Whoever fills this out.
Take a peek here at the box score.
Definitely.
Yeah, Quinshon Judkins, 3 rushing touchdowns.
All right, put some respect on his name. We're going to fire whoever our coronation quest person is. All right. So I add Quinshon Judkins there. A lot of rookies on this list. We've had Mecca on there. We've had Gene T on there, Scadaboo, and now Judkins. So some rookies scoring. Next one is the Hand of the King, most catches week to week. This week it was Jamar Chase. I think he had some like 16.
16, I think.
Yeah.
He broke a record for Flacco because I think they said Flacco's previous record was 13 when he was still with the Ravens. I forget who the receiver was. And I actually, I don't remember if they said it was targets or receptions. I'm pretty sure it was receptions. And once Jamar got his 13th or 14th, they made a big deal about him breaking the record for Flacco. And then, he's also on my fantasy team, so I was definitely paying attention to that.
Yes. Yeah. So nice. Jamar now he was tied. Now he's in sole lead for the Hand of the King. So he was tied last week with Drake London, and then he's alone this week. And then in week 2, he was alone in week 2. So he's got 3. And that pulls him ahead of Puka, who had been on there twice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Puka did not play this week, so I don't know if he's a target guy for sure.
Yeah, he definitely is a high volume guy. All right, next is the Shield of Rohan. So this is the best defense, and this week it goes to your Cleveland Browns, baby. They were just eating Tua for lunch. It was a glorious thing to see. Next is the Lizan Al-Gaib, which is reserved for the best kicker. This year we have a tie, or this week we have a tie, and this is the first tie for the kickers with Brandon Aubrey and then Will Reichard. I think I'm saying his last name right. He's the kicker for Minnesota. And now Brandon Aubrey, that moves him into first place. So he won it in week 2. Yeah, we had a different one every week until Brandon Aubrey finally repeats here. So he was someone that I was targeting in all my drafts.
He's special.
He's very good. And in the high-powered offense, I mean, they're just scoring. Next, we have the Reaper. So Brett might not understand this reference. So this is the main character, one of his monikers in Red Rising book series. Dara of Lycos is the Reaper of Mars, or just the Reaper. So most rush yards. And this week that goes to Jahmyr Gibbs after Rico Dowdle was just perched up there by himself 2 weeks in a row. That actually makes Dowdle still in the lead with 2. So this is Gibbs' first time on the list here. Derrick Henry started us off week 1. Yeah, man.
That is a slide for him in the Ravens.
Yes, that is something.
It's shocking. 1 in 5 like that. I mean, I know obviously Lamar's been hurt for 3 weeks now, 2 or 3 weeks, but even those last couple games he was healthy, they were not looking good.
Yeah, not good. All right, and then the last one we have is Colby and I's personal favorite category, the creature golem. So this was the biggest bust of the week. So least amount of points, and defense and kickers are not included in this. So just an offensive player, biggest bust of the week goes to Kenny Pickett. Las Vegas Raiders QB. I think he had minus 1.16 is what he finished with. So good for Kenny Pickett. No, we've had a different player every single week on this. Most of the players on here is because they literally record one fumble in the game and then have no other stats. But the past 2 weeks are guys that have gotten, Kenny Pickett, I won't say meaningful playing time, but it wasn't just like he came in to run like a wildcat play and fumbled and then never saw the field again. Like he played a little bit and didn't do well at all. Last week was probably the worst one by far. It was Cooper Rush for Baltimore, had minus 1.12, and he played the whole game.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, so he went like 11 for 19 for 72 yards and an interception. So not good. That's the creature golem, Kenny Pickett. Ooh. All right, that was fantasy and football Coronation Quest. So that'll end the football segment. And this is normally Colby's duty. duty.
Mm-hmm.
Duty. But I get to do it this week, and I feel extra special.
All right. Well,
so this is the point, Brett, where we transition now from the fantasy portion of the podcast over to the fantasy portion of the podcast. Okay. All right. So this week we don't have really anything special planned. The specialness was me getting to do the transition. So what we're going to do is just kind of talk a little bit about fantasy and sci-fi, ask Brett some questions to see what he's reading, what he's watching, what he likes, what he dislikes. So let's start with a general question. Do you like fantasy and sci-fi just as a genre?
I absolutely do. Yes, sir. Okay. It's a great genre.
I did know that answer already, but yes. Very good. So what I want to ask you next is, so you could answer this kind of one or two ways, but what fantasy or sci-fi, book or movie or TV show, either you remember as like just the first that kind of introduced you to the genre, or what not just was like kind of the genesis of it, but what really like got your interest peaked into the genre?
Sure. I'll give an example for books and movies. So books, I don't know if you remember this series or not, but this goes all the way back to elementary school.
Ooh.
That's how long I've been into fantasy, and that is the Redwall series.
The Redwall.
Do you ever remember that? Yeah. So no, I'll give a brief synopsis on it. So it's written by Brian Jacques, and there's probably 15 to 20 books in the series. I have not read them all, but Redwall is essentially about forest animals. And they live in this, they call it the Abbey, their little stronghold. And, it's supposed to be like medieval fantasy, but it's instead of, a king defending his castle, it is, mice and other forest animals, rats are the bad guys, but mice. I think there's a badger that lives with them. There's some voles, any type of forest creature you can think of, otters. It's really silly, but again, I was in elementary school. Sure. And it's just a bunch of different adventures about these forest animals, either just defending, their fort stronghold from, the bad rats and weevils and just whatever more grungier animals you can think of are the bad guys typically. And then, there's a term called slice of life where, or it's just them going about their lives and the stories of that kind of stuff, So that was the books that got me interested in fantasy. And I read probably a dozen of them back in elementary school. Okay. Movie wise, I can't say I've watched a lot of fantasy when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But sci-fi, I have a lot of special memories with Star Wars. My uncle, who passed away when I was 12, I still remember him taking me to the theaters when episodes 1, 2, and 3 were all rolling out. So that will always hold a special place in my heart. I watch, reruns of them all the time. I own all of them. I will include all of them, but episode 9, episode 9 does not exist to me. It's probably one of the worst pieces of media I've ever seen. But that's a story for another day. So, but I am still very actively a fantasy reader and a fantasy TV show, movie, sci-fi TV show, movie enjoyer. So, you can kind of explore that with another question if you want.
Yeah, for sure. So that'll roll real nicely into the next question, which is there something you are currently reading or watching?
So reading, right now I'm on a big audiobook kick. So I was reading a lot of physical books. I want to say most of 2023. So I unfortunately at the beginning of 2023 got laid off from my job and had a nightmare of a time finding a new one. So in between applying for jobs, interviewing for jobs, and doing odd jobs to make some extra cash, I had a lot of free time on my hands. So I read a lot of books. And the trilogy that really kind of got me rolling, you guys have talked about it before on the podcast, is the Mistborn trilogy. Absolutely love that. I remember starting to read the first one. I forget who got me into it. It might have been Alex's little brother Evan, or a girl I know, Felicia. That's their cousin. But I got rolling on Mistborn and I couldn't put it down. I remember asking for the trilogy for Christmas. I got it, read it within like 6 weeks, and which is fast for me. Because I mean, they're still like 400 pages or something like that. Those ones. So absolutely love that, which led me to the Stormlight Archive, which was my first dip into high fantasy. And I have read the first 4. I have not read the newest release yet, just because those things are a lot to tackle.
They are hefty.
The early ones, 1,100, 1,200 pages. The latest ones, 1,500 pages. Like, those ones, I would definitely mix it up between reading the physical book and listening on audiobook. Because with my job, once a week, usually I'll have a day where I don't have to do phone calls or anything. So I can just throw in my headphones and listen to an audiobook. And that I listen to it at like 1.3, 1.4 times speed. And, tackle a 60-hour audiobook a little bit quicker than and it doesn't really interrupt, in my opinion, it doesn't really impact how it's being read to me. Like, I still get everything from it and I actually enjoy it a little bit quicker. I'm listening to an audiobook currently called The Lies of Locke Lamora, which is a part of this series called The Gentleman Bastards. And Locke Lamora is the main character. I don't know much about the other books. This is just book 1, but he's essentially an orphan and gets adopted into this crime family, so to speak. But they're more of like kind of a Robin Hood-y type crime family. It's not necessarily, we kill or steal from whoever we want. It's purposeful. It's take from the rich to obviously benefit themselves, but also benefit people, other orphans and people like them. So I'm probably about 75% of the way through that audiobook. It's been good so far. So that is my current read, because again, I'm taking a break from Stormlight. I'll get into Gen 2 Mistborn eventually. Might even ask for those for Christmas, maybe, I don't know. But just wanted to try something else out. And I actually backtrack a little bit. I did know your Reaper reference. I have read the Red Rising trilogy.
Did I not know that?
I don't think you did.
I don't think
that trilogy is freaking awesome.
Oh my gosh! Wait. All right. So hold on. We're gonna hit timeout here. We actually have one, unlike KD and the Rockets. Got away with that.
Wow. Yeah, I did see that. That was funny.
So they pulled a little Chris Webber there. So So starting with Mistborn. So I have read the first 3. I haven't read the second 4 of those. Which one of those was your favorite, would you say, if you had one, if you remember?
Oh man. Probably the second one, the middle one. I mean, the first one's such a good introduction into the world. I'm actually having my sister read it right now because she's into that stuff too. But she, just with her job and everything else going on, she's gotten off to a slow start and hasn't had a lot of free time to read. And she's more of a physical reader.
And Sanderson, so the beginning of Sanderson is a little tough. A little.
Like, I loved how it transitioned from Vin. Like, she talked about it being her luck, and she didn't know what it was, but she had this aspect of luck that she could just turn on. But to see that transition into her learning about what she was, the training arc with Kelsier, and then the end of the first book, you're like,
I gotta get the next one.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, Brandon Sanderson is just a phenomenal writer. Not to take away from Mistborn, but Stormlight obviously being how much bigger worlds they are and depth to them and stories that are going on, it can be a little confusing to follow along sometimes. So I feel like you do have to be focused. But with Mistborn, it's not like, there are some aspects that make you think, and you want to kind of guess at what's going on or who's involved with what, but it's still more of like a relaxing read, in my opinion. It's something that, you could read 10 pages of and not feel bad about putting it down halfway through a chapter like you would with, because if you take too much time off of Stormlight, you're just like, I don't know what's going on. I need to reread or a synopsis. But yeah, so no, book 2, I forget what it's called though. So Mistborn, and then I know there's is there a Final Empire or what?
So
Or
Final Empire is the first one, and then Well of Ascension is the second, and then Hero of
yep.
Ages
Okay.
is the third.
Gotcha.
So
Okay. Well,
so I a little background for the audience. So the way I know Brett, we met in the hard streets of kindergarten class. Um, so Brett and I, Brett is one of my two longest friends. The only people I've known longer than Brett are literally my family. So um, it was funny to me just now that you said the second one, because that is a hot take. Because the second one is the lowest rate. I mean, it's still rated well, but it's the lowest rated out of that first trilogy. And most everyone say that they just liked the Hero of Ages the most. And the second one is also my favorite. It is to this day my favorite book I've ever read. Is
wow.
the second is Well of Ascension.
Okay.
I don't know why. I love that book. I mean, Hero of Ages was great, and obviously you get like kind of the payoff with that Sanderlanche at the end. So that's amazing. So that's Mistborn. Okay, and then I have so many thoughts, and I wanna fit it all in here. So I'm gonna just say this as an aside. When and if you get the second part of the Mistborn series, let me know, because that's on my TBR, but I'm just not getting around to it. It's kind of low down there, but that is something I read books like you and Colby and a lot of my other friends like that I know that read these books have all read them already, and then I get the suggestions from them to read them.
Yeah.
So then I'm reading them and have no one to talk to about it because they've already all read it. Like no one is like discovering it at the same time. So I would love to read those at the same time. So we can talk about it. So there's that aside.
Quick side note on that. The toughest part about having or like, reading right now, like the fall is just the pinnacle of sports.
It is.
And that's what takes away from my reading time. Cause like,
does.
we obviously work during the day and I get home at 6:30, which isn't early, but it's not late. But like I get home, I eat dinner and there's sports on.
Yep.
So I'm usually watching some sort of game. Once it gets, depending upon what that game is, because right now hockey or basketball, football's only Monday, Thursday during the week. But because I'm not personally watching action on Wednesday, not my thing. But it's such a hard thing to do to get back into the book, because I do enjoy reading. But like when there's all these sports going on, and then October, me, I'm a big horror movie guy.
Yep.
So it's one of those things that once the weather, and it has kind of turned here in Ohio already. It's already freaking 45 degrees today.
Yeah.
Once it starts turning into a little cozier out there, I'll probably I got a book neck on my nightstand that read a few pages before bed, but I need to definitely allocate a little bit more time to it.
Yeah. Oh no, I feel the exact same way. I have like a reminder on my phone every night that goes off to say, like, it literally just says read. That way I know, like, okay, let me read at least a chapter or however much, just to be more consistent with that. Okay, so that's the piece about Mistborn. Let's do, because I want to talk about Red Rising, but let's do Stormlight next. So I also don't think I knew, maybe I did know, because I remember after our like first or second episode, you texted me about it, but I can't remember the exact details of that. But I am currently like 250 pages in to Words of Radiance right now.
Okay.
So I just started the second book of the Stormlight Archive. First book was amazing, and I've said it on the podcast before when Colby and I have talked about it, but to me, The Way of Kings, the first book, is unbelievable because like not a ton happens, but it definitely is like kind of exciting, and you're getting into the world, and it's like a good book introducing you to this world that they're in. But it's 1,200 pages, and all of the characters end in the same physical location they started. And that just blows my mind. Like you get to the end and it's like, oh, you're so excited to start the next one. And I'm like, all these people just were he was on the Shattered Plains the whole time.
Yeah.
They were in Carbroth the whole time. Like, but it's just so that obviously just speaks to Sanderson, and how well he writes that. So that's where I'm at with Stormlight Archive. I know Colby, he went to, when the fifth one came out, Sanderson in Salt Lake City did like a big convention sort of thing where he was giving a talk, and then you could buy the book, and he was signing autographs and all that, and doing book signings. So Colby went to that and got that book. He said like the first night they like all sat down, and then like they sat around and they read the first 100 pages, and he said he has not picked it up since then.
And now for like 6 months now, hasn't it?
Yeah. So he's like, I'll just get back into that at some point. And then, so that's what so I just finished that. And then a book that maybe you've seen or heard of, or even if I've talked to you about it, but a book I'm recommending to everyone is The Will of the Many, by James Islington. It is the first book in a new series of his called The Hierarchy. And it is really, really good. It has some great ratings, and the second one is set to release next month, The Strength of the Few, which I'm excited for. So our main topic, the last episode on this section, was the sophomore slump. So we talked about like how it happens in the NFL, and then we talked about how oftentimes in book series too, the second book, the ratings usually dip, and so it's like a sophomore slump in books. So it got me nervous, and we talked about how I'm like, the first book was so good, and like the second book, I was really, really excited, like 90% excited, 10% nervous that maybe it won't be as good. And then after we talked about all the examples of all these books series, that the second one is usually a little bit worse, I'm more like 50-50 on it now, but I'm definitely excited.
See, it's interesting you say that, because I'm thinking back to all, like, whether trilogies or whatever, whether it be books or movies, and almost in every example, I'm more into the second one than I am the first, because the first of any type of medium is, if there is, a saga or a trilogy or whatever, the first one is always just primarily building the world.
Yeah.
And the second one is always, especially in trilogies, it's in the trenches. And I'm just an in the trenches enjoyer. So, Rings, I can't tell you how many times I watched the Two Towers and the Battle for Helm's Deep. Like that, it literally is one of the most memorable things of my childhood as far as fantasy, physical media, or video media goes. I would legitimately pop in that DVD after school someday and just go to scene selection. I said Mistborn, my second book in that one, Red Rising, Golden Sun. Like, dude, the second books for me, when they're in the trenches, deep in the thicket of things after they set everything up, like that, those are my favorites. So, and
I
think don't read into what everyone else says, just form your own opinions. So
for sure. I think you and I have that in common. I think that's what I like, and Colby made the point about the second Mistborn. He's like, there's a lot of like strategy also happening like through some of that book. I think to me it happens more. I mean, Hero of Ages is just kind of depressing, but there's like more strategy and more just like, I guess to him what he would say is like, stuff where you're just kind of in the trenches of it, and you're progressing the story, but there's more like character development, and there's no like, you're not building really toward a final resolution at the end of the book, because it's only the second one. So you're just kind of in a slog. But I agree, I like that. So I'm hopeful. All right, now I was 90-10, I was 50-50, I'm back to 90-10.
There you go. That's what we like to hear.
All right. So the last thing we'll talk about is Red Rising. So you've read, oh my gosh, this is blowing my mind. So you've read the first 3? I
have. So I want to say I did those early spring, or maybe late winter, early spring, or spring into early summer. They were all audiobooks, so unfortunately didn't read. But like, it was one of those things that I was just always listening to it. Like when I was in my car on the way to work, when the days that I could listen to it at work, when I was coming home from work, when I was working out, like it was just always on. And so I went through those pretty quickly. I rotate between Spotify and Audible. I keep playing the system with Audible. I keep saying I'm going to cancel, and they'll be like, "We'll extend you $3 a month for the next 3 months." I'm like, "All right, I'll do it."
That's good.
And then Spotify's nice. You can usually knock out one book per month on that because it has like the regular plan has a 15-hour monthly limit. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if the speed up, I don't know if that applies or not. I'll have to figure that out. Because if I listen to a 15-hour book in 10 hours, do I still have 5 hours? I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. Theory I'll have to test. But so yeah, I did all 3 of those in pretty quick succession. Freaking love that trilogy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, I forget the analogy I made to someone, but it's like Hunger Games on steroids,
Yes.
It's just so much more hardcore and awesome.
Yeah.
The character building is so good. The freaking the Jackal dude is one of the freakiest villains that I can remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what's the female who's the bodyguard of the one lady, Asa, or I forget her name, but
Asia.
She's badass too. Yeah, however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Asia or Asher or something. But
yeah.
She was really well done too. She was you usually don't get a badass woman villain. And she was freaking badass.
Yeah. So yeah, you're 100% right. Colby, I think, said the same thing, like Hunger Games on steroids. To me, those books are so good because, and the way I said it to Kelly, because I'm trying to convince her to read it, and I think I've got it so that at some point she will read them when she gets to that place of she's read all the books she wants to read in the season, and then she just has nothing else. So then, okay, fine, I'll try Red Rising. So I think I've at least got it to that point.
Is she primarily a Colleen Hoover, Frida McFadden type reader?
So she has, yes, she will do that, but she has lately been getting into more sci-fi fantasy. So she did she did ACOTAR, the Sarah J. Maas stuff. She did all of those Fourth Wing.
Is that the Court of Rose and Thorns or whatever?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've never read any of those, but I know all the girls love them. So.
Oh yeah, all the girlies. Yeah. So she's big in with the female authors right now, and then or she was, and then she's been really into I guess a sci-fi series called Dungeon Crawler Carl. Have you heard of this? Okay, so
Colby mentioned it, right? And in the first episode,
he did. So he recommended that to her and me because he was reading. There's a lot of books. There's a lot of them, but she is making her way through those, and she's a fast reader. I see her read, and I know she reads more than me, but then it's she's still. The rate at which she finishes books is insane. So she's making her way through those right now, and she really likes them. And I think that will help, hopefully, maybe get her into Red Rising. But the way that I've tried to describe it to her is there are really still really strong female characters in Red Rising, to your point. And Pierce Brown, I was saying this during I forget if it was last episode or whatever, but he writes how Lord of the Rings is written to me, Tolkien style, whereas Sanderson writes a little more direct. He describes fight scenes, and he doesn't dive too deep into relationships in a romantic sense. Whereas Pierce Brown to me is the Red Rising series is poetry. All of it just makes you feel whether it's
very visceral, very visceral.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The fight scenes aren't just saying this happened, then this happened, then they did this. There's just so much more. It's almost written like an anime fight where you're just they are saying all these things and not fighting, and it's been 3 episodes, and you're when are they gonna start fighting? But it's just setting so much of it up. And so whenever you get around to Dark Age, the 4th book, and start that journey, I will be very, very excited for you. So I've read up to 6, and then whatever Red God is supposed to come out next year. But that's
awesome. Pierce Brown younger than us too. I'm pretty sure he's super young. He's 29 or something. I'm gonna look it up.
Is he? Oh man, what am I doing with my life?
I completely lied. He's 37, but I think I think what I remember is he wrote these at a very young age because
Yeah,
they've been out for
sure.
a while now.
Right.
Red Rising came out 11 years ago, so he was 26 when he wrote that freaking
Yeah,
masterpiece. Like,
that's amazing. That's so good.
Because I remember looking it up one time. That's why I just thought he was still younger. But
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've gone over time a little bit. That's okay. That was good. That was good. You have any lasting thoughts?
Well,
Fantasy?
first off, thanks for having me. You know, I remember mentioning as soon as you launched this that I'm like, I love that you did this. I would be interested in being a part of it. So here I am. And so thank you again. Colby, hopefully I get to meet him, talk to him sometime. Based off of everything I've heard him talk about, I know we'd get along as well. So, but yeah, no, I mean, this is kind of random because it's back to sports really quickly, but I wanted to ask you, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. I'll say one that I've been thinking of. Hopefully we don't say the same one, but what is one of the most iconic sports quotes from an athlete that comes to mind for you?
Just
anything.
In general.
Could be anything. Yeah, I told you, it's putting you on the spot. But just one sports quote that it could be something personal, it could be about sports, whatever, but something from an athlete. I'll give you an example. Like Cardell Jones, you know, I didn't come to. I don't play no school or whatever.
I came to play football.
Just something that stood out to you that an athlete said.
Okay, one that I say all the time because we're Browns fans and they're in the middle of the season is like anytime something happens, I look at my dog and I go, Browns is the Browns, from Juju Smith-Schuster when he said that about them a few years ago when he was on the Steelers. And I say that all the time. So that's my answer on the spot.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I didn't obviously prepare you for that. So that it's very applicable to our conversation earlier. This is more of a recent one too. It was in an interview that Marshawn Lynch did with Kevin Hart, but he would talk about what he would do post game back when he was still playing, and I quote, he said, "I would bip in the whip, crack the heen, and slide." And Kevin Hart stops him, and he's like, "Let me translate that for everyone." He would hop in the car. He would open up a bottle of Hennessy and they would ride. And that one just because of how polarizing and funny Marshawn Lynch has been throughout his whole playing career and now his media career, like that one to me just kills me every time I hear it.
That's so good. All right, well, we will bip in the whip, and we will definitely have you on again for another episode. I think next week, because Colby is going to be out again next week. So we may do one. We may just take a break. I don't want to get too behind on the football week to week. Mm-hmm. So, but regardless, you'll definitely be back on. Thanks for filling in a pinch and offering just some great fantasy football analysis and some good fantasy talk. So thanks for listening, everyone. This has been episode 9, Fantasy and Football. We will see you again.
All right. Thanks again for having me.